Dylan Mulvaney has revealed the truth about Bud Light, claiming they abandoned her amid the transphobic backlash she received after promoting their brand. In a brand new video, Dylan reveals she has been harassed and even followed by strangers in public since her Bud Light video went viral in April 2023.
And I was waiting for the brand to reach out to me, but they never did. And for months now, I've been scared to leave my house. I have been ridiculed in public. I've been followed. And I have felt a loneliness that I wouldn't wish on anyone.
Dylan explains how Bud Light have done nothing to support her during this time.
For a company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse, in my opinion, than not hiring a trans person at all.
On April 1st, Dylan posted a sponsored video to her Instagram, announcing herself as a Bud Light partner. The video was quickly found by conservatives who called to boycott the beer. Since then, Dylan has not admitted to what happened behind the scenes. Fans rushed to Dylan's comments, flooding them with love and support during this time.
Over the past few years, several brands have come under fire for choosing to support trans activism, gender ideology, and queerness. Part of this pushback has stemmed from homophobia and a dislike of the newfound acceptance of homosexuality. But much of it is a reflection of the reality of public opinion on gender ideology. Namely, that despite a very loud online presence, people in the real world prefer not to give their money to brands which prioritize trans-identified males over women.
Nike's recent brand deal with Dylan Mulvaney is drawing furious reaction from critics, with one TikToker even setting her Nike sports bra on fire in response. TikTok user known as Chatterbox Mama said Nike should be ashamed of itself and accused the brand of pushing women around in the same ways they were oppressed in the past. In what she's calling the Burn Bra Challenge, she took a video of herself setting her sports bra alight and asked her followers to do the same, promising to make Nike's problem a financial one. And this comes after the social media backlash over Mulvaney's partnership with Bud Light. Here's what the public had to say when we asked them what they thought about the deal.
Why not a transgender on the beer?
Women drink Bud Light too.
It would be cool if it was like a cowboy Bud Light that feels like very American. Your dad cracks up a cold one, but things are changing.
What do you guys think about Mulvaney's recent partnerships? Let us know in the comments below and head over to dailymail.com for more.
Nike's partnership with Dylan Mulvaney, which occurred after Allison Felix's criticism of their treatment of female athletes, led to a wave of bra burnings and protests. Nike claimed that this backlash is primarily on social media, and reiterated their support of transgenderism, labeling all criticism as hate. The economic impact to Nike is harder to measure in comparison to the backlash Bud Light faced after gifting Dylan a commemorative can with his face on it.
This Bud Light boycott is not letting up. We are now at the point where a case of Bud Light is selling for less than water. The manager of Glenn Miller's beer and soda warehouse in Pennsylvania says a 30-pack of Miller Lite sells for $24.99, whereas a 30-pack of Bud Light is selling for $8.99. That is less than the price of a case of water. And they don't want to sell it for that much, but they're forced to because no one is buying it. Further to that, one of Bud Light's bottling plants have had to let go of 650 staff members because there's just been such a dramatic decrease in the output of Bud Light since the Dylan Mulvaney drama. This is the true manifestation of go woke, go broke. Blue collar, factory workers losing their jobs, unable to feed their families, because some marketing executive from Yale University decided it would be a great idea to abandon the base of a historic beer brand. They are so blinded to the plight of everyday hardworking people, and they truly feel that as long as this tiny minority is kept happy, then the rest of the people can just make do.
The result of this was a wave of boycotts led by conservative groups. However, while many brands view boycotts as being short-term, the reaction of Anheuser-Busch to the boycott only worsened the polarization of its consumers. Alyssa Heinerscheid, who was in charge of Bud Light's marketing at the time, chose to include Dylan in an attempt to attract young drinkers, and to change the brand's image, which she described as being kind of a brand of fratty, kind of out-of-touch humor, and it was really important that we had another approach. In addition to overestimating the potential gains by catering to a new market, the brand worsened their losses by alienating the primary consumers of their brand, old white guys. Whereas other brands have faced boycotts, Bud Light's boycott was successful because they were more easily replaced, as there are plenty of other beer brands to choose from. Additionally, the group they intended to court are simply not interested in their product. Regardless of the support gained online, those who were pleased by their partnership with Dylan were not supporting the brand in the way that it matters. with their wallets. This has led to a decline in sales that continues on a year later, as, according to Newsweek, the company's United States revenue declined by 9.1% in the first quarter of the year. Per the outlet, Anheuser-Busch also reported that sales to retailers had declined almost 14%, primarily due to the volume decline of Bud Light. In the 3 months following the controversy, Bud Light sales and purchase incidents were about 28% lower than the same period in prior years. Notably, this initial decline was more pronounced in predominantly Republican counties, as measured by the 2020 presidential vote, than predominantly Democratic counties. Both sales and purchase incidents decreased by about 32% in more Republican counties versus 22% in more Democratic counties. However, unlike with other consumer boycotts, Bud Light has not bounced back quickly. The sales decline persisted for close to 8 months, with sales and purchase incidents down by 32% in quarter 4 of 2023. Interestingly, the sales decline in Democratic counties became even larger over time, shrinking the gap between Republican and Democratic counties. This additional decline in sales is likely a result of retailers and distributors reducing shelf space for Bud Light, illustrating how boycotts can lead to a negative feedback loop. What started as a consumer-led boycott generated downstream adjustments from retailers and distributors. These supply-side adjustments hurt the brand's visibility and further exacerbated the negative impact on Bud Light's performance. Similarly, Target faced backlash in 2023 for their inclusion of Pride merchandise.
I'm sorry I chose you again. I just needed to do the bathing suit the last bit. I found the tuck bathing suits, the tuck-friendly bathing suits. So if you need a women's bathing suit and you have a little extra meat down there that you got to hide, you have one option. That is the only bathing suit that I found in the entire store, and it's in the Pride section. It's not in the kids section, women's section, boys section, baby section. It is in the Pride section. It was the only one I could find. And I did have another adult with me checking all the tags so that I didn't have to stay in the store for 9 hours. It's the only one.
Among the items angering some customers was a one-piece, tuck-friendly swimsuit, a bathing suit that has extra material for the crotch area for individuals who want to conceal their genitalia. Target said it was only available in adult sizes, though some critics erroneously claimed that it was being sold to children. The collection also included children's books about transgender issues and gender fluidity. The decision to prominently place these items in Target stores only further fueled outrage at the reach of transgender ideology and led the employees facing harassment. In 2024, Target has been more selective as to which stores will have those items for sale.
So I'm not telling everybody to boycott Target, but I'm not going to be shopping there. Yeah, so let's talk about Target removing the Pride merchandise. What does that actually mean? I mean, first of all, Target, absolutely not. So what's happening right now is we're seeing backlash and the company decides, oh, instead of standing with the community, they're pandering to the transphobes. Listen, am I surprised? Absolutely not. No, I am not surprised. But you know what I am? Pissed off because this is the direction that this country is going in. We are pandering to the transphobes because we are afraid of them instead of standing up for a group of marginalized people that we're supposed to be supporting and trying to make money off of again. This isn't the right move. We have to call them out. We need to talk about it. Trans people need support right now. We desperately need support right now.
It should be noted that much of this backlash is not necessarily directed at transgenderism, but at anything considered gay. Many people do not see a distinction between transgenderism and homosexuality, and oppose both out of homophobia rather than out of a disagreement with the misogyny and harmful rhetoric of trans ideology. In turn, this illustrates the ensuing backlash that will likely long outlast the trans movement and lead to a return of overt homophobia. The latest target of this backlash is Planet Fitness, which has been in the news lately for a refusal to maintain single-sex spaces in its changing rooms, and which has retaliated against women who speak out against the inclusion of men in these spaces and air their own discomfort.
This is a $400 million photo. Planet Fitness lost more than $400 million in just 5 days. Here's why. A lady walked into the women's locker room where she noticed a 12-year-old girl with a towel wrapped around her, and she looked really afraid. This man was grooming himself at the mirror sink, so the woman who took this photo asked the man to leave. The man responded that he identified as a woman, and then the woman said, "No, you're a man." The man wouldn't leave, and Planet Fitness kicked out the woman who took the picture and canceled her membership. Well, word got around how that woman was treated. People all around the United States started canceling their memberships to Planet Fitness. This is not okay. Making children uncomfortable is not okay. Now share this with everyone.
The resulting boycott and monetary losses have been admitted to by the company, as Planet Fitness admitted it had suffered a fairly significant drop in membership signups after one of its gyms unleashed a media firestorm by allowing a transgender customer to shave in the women's locker room, and the company plans to hike prices by 50%. That customers, namely female customers, who make up a large number of their members, would react to their decision to allow men and women spaces by changing gyms should not have come as a surprise. Not simply due to common sense, but also based on the reactions to the previously stated company's attempts to cater to the begendered crowd. So the question arises, why take the risk to court this group when it results in such economic loss? Part of this is due to academic research previously illustrating that boycotts were more bark than bite, as research measuring the sales impact of boycott and boycott movements has also found small, short-lived effects for the brands involved. However, even the possibility of bad optics should forestall such decisions. Instead, companies continue to make the decision to cater to transgenderism despite being a small portion of the population, due to the desire to meet ESG ratings and to maintain access to loans and investors. The 2004 United Nations report, Who Cares Wins, which introduced the principles of ESG to a worldwide audience, suggests that investors will make higher long-term profits if they put more emphasis on environmental and social progress. The small print was that the task of defining these impossibly broad categories, environmental or social, will be left to international institutions. Per those institutions' priorities, environmental mostly focus on implementing CO2 reduction goals, while social would mean anything related to the UN stated social goals on issues such as gender parity, racial justice, and poverty reduction. In other words, from the very beginning, the goal of ESG was to harmonize the priorities of political elites with those of business leaders. In other words, the mega companies which corporations rely on for loans and monetary support have created a grading system that operates much like a credit score for individuals. It places certain political and social goals as higher than others, and forces corporations as a whole to be beholden, not just to individual shareholders, but to everyone. As John Masco notes in BlackRock's tyrannical ESG agenda, by making companies answerable to everyone, proponents of stakeholder capitalism make them answerable to no one. For example, while many Americans would agree think that climate change is cause for concern, some would dispute the idea that reaching net zero emissions by 2050 is a workable strategy, or even that businesses should focus on climate change at the expense of prioritizing other problems, such as hunger, poverty, or terrorism. Similarly, some individual investors might disagree with State Street's insistence on gender and diversity quotas for company boards. Living as we do in a free market capitalist democracy, there is supposed to be room for disagreement on questions such as these. When companies disagree with one another, the result is that they choose different strategies, allowing the market to choose the best strategy in the long term. But when CEOs of every company in America answer to Larry Fink first and their actual investors second, that diversity, and therefore the probability that we ever discover the best strategies, plummets.
And it's very interesting to see how big investors like insurance company, institutional investors, they are steering away from anything that does not have the right ESG rating. And so in order to have investors continue to be interested in the stock, which is important for the company, for its perception, certainly for the officers of the company and the shareholders, you have to move this along continuously. And so it's very simple to see why doing a woke ad as Nike or as any other company, Pride Month is fantastic, because Pride is easy. Throw up some flags, show the right people, trans, whatever, and you got a high ESG score.
Instead of improving scores in the social category by hiring more minorities or integrating women into the corporate ladder, companies instead choose to raise scores by supporting social causes like gender ideology. This allows them to receive funding without enacting meaningful changes. It also forces companies to align with the ideology that BlackRock supports, regardless of whether its shareholders agree. In 2020, BlackRock announced that it would no longer invest in companies that discriminate against transgender people. In 2021, BlackRock was criticized by some for donating to organizations that support transgender rights. In 2022, BlackRock announced that it will be working with the Human Rights Campaign to promote transgender rights. It is clear that BlackRock, one of the most powerful corporate bodies in the world, is taking a stance on the issue of transgender rights. In other words, I would argue that most companies do not have a strong opinion one way or another on these issues. They are simply following the will of the money, which is beholden to the whims of a handful of megacorporations that control much of the world's companies and wealth. If customers are able to make a big enough dent in profits, companies may be influenced to avoid continuing this mistake. But truthfully, the issue goes far deeper than what individual reactions are to these causes, illustrating just how prominent the puppet strings are once you get a chance to look for them. This, dear viewers, is Repart. I was thinking about this recently because I have a membership with Planet Fitness. It's the cheapest gym in the area, even though it's not really the closest one. And thankfully, I haven't seen any men entering the women's changing rooms. But I know that this is not something that I would support. And the only way people will pay attention to you, especially corporations, is when you do stuff with your money. You say, no, I'll use a different gym, no, I'll get a different beer. And in certain cases, like with Bud Light and Planet Fitness, there are other options that are pretty similar. So the trade-off isn't really that much of a sacrifice. A lot of beer tastes the same, and a lot of beer tastes better than Bud Light, so it's not really that much of a sacrifice to say, hey, I'm not buying this beer anymore, and then moving on. The same thing can be said for the gym. You can find cheap gyms that are maybe $5, $10 more, but don't support letting men and women spaces. And I think even when we make these decisions, I don't know how much change they're really going to bring forward. I do think that Bud Light has tried to walk back this choice, but I don't know how long. I don't know if it's really going to make a difference anytime soon. And Planet Fitness definitely is regretting their choice here. But as long as these ESG standards have transgenderism as a support cause that gets them points in their little credit score, I don't think they're going to choose women's rights over trans rights, especially because one brings more money than the other. Anyhow, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.